today protesting outside of the town hall on the day that the council will meet to set its budget for next year. I think we send a very loud and clear message. Before we start the proceedings today, there's just one important message that I want you to think about. We got a telephone call in this morning asking us to raise with you, to make a request to you. It was from a Mr. Nick Clegg. By all accounts, a deposit was lost yesterday in Barnsley. I think it might have blown down the M1 to Sheffield, so if anybody finds it, can they return it to his constituency office? Colleagues, this is an important demonstration. But of course we stand here today in Sheffield not alone. These demonstrations are happening in towns and cities across the UK. People coming together, not only public sector workers, but service users and people in the wider community, to send a very, very clear message, not only to our elected politicians in local town halls, but also to our elected politicians nationally, that you are simply getting it wrong. That the economic policies that you're following, the cutting public services at a time when the economy is shrinking, putting public service workers on the dole and taking those much needed vital services out of our communities, is simply wrong, and it's not fair. And we send that message very clearly today to our elected representatives here. Our public services are far too important. Of course, what we see from the right-wing press, as is always the case, a message of doom, a message that there's no alternative, that it really doesn't matter coming out because nothing will change. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. We know from our history that when people come together in solidarity, things do change. The Charterist movement that campaigned for votes for working class people were told, you won't get them. But they were the many, and the people with self-interest were the few, and we got those votes. The suffragettes movement, who campaigned for votes for women, were told that you won't get those votes, but they were the many, and the people with self-interest were the few, and those votes were delivered. And what's happening now in North Africa? It's not about a religious revolution, but about working people, particularly working people who are young, coming together and saying, we won't have this poverty, we won't be disenfranchised, and we will take on those in power and elite, and they're winning. So all the evidence is that when working people come together, things do change. And we come together here today, but this is the start of our protest. And we take this, and our colleagues up and down the country take their campaigns, and we join together on the streets of London on the 26th of March, where we hope there'll be 700,000 people sending a very clear message that unless and until the failed economic policies of this government change, we will campaign and we will fight those cuts in every corner of this country. And come the local elections in May, there'll be Tories and Liberals and others who support that policy who'll be losing their deposits, not only in Barnsley but in every town and city. Colleagues, it gives me great pleasure to announce our first speaker this afternoon, and that's Tim Roach. Tim's the Regional Secretary of the GMB, and he's currently President of the Yorkshire and Humberside TUC. Tim.